All right, welcome back. Well, today you can see that we are doing a state of the collection for January 2025. So a lot of these knives were acquired in 2024, but I've been collecting for um, 11 years now. So not all of them are from 2024, and not all the ones that I acquired in 2024 are on this table, and that's because I swap regularly. So this collection is fluid, and some of these are long-term keepers. Some of them will be sold or are currently for sale, and that's just how collecting works. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with the more boring stuff. It's over here. You can't really see it. Not all my knives fit on camera, so we'll start with the more boring stuff and some of the oldest stuff. So Ontario Rat, I think this is the Model 2. Model 1, sorry. This is an absolute classic. This one, you should have one in your collection if you're a knife collector, but this one is special to me because when I started collecting knives, the first knife that I bought on Blade Forums, which I don't even remember what it was, but the first knife I bought on Blade Forums, the guy that I bought from heard, or I was chatting with him, and he heard that I had just gotten into collecting, and he sent this to me for free with the knife I bought from him. It was super meaningful to me and really actually kind of jump-started me into collecting because I realized how cool the community was. So that one is one that will never leave the leave the collection. Obviously, you can see it's beat up. It's an AUS 8. It's a cheap knife, but the Ontario Rat Model 1 and Model 2 are absolute classics, and this one is extremely special to me. So next up, I've got the Benchmade Bone Collector. And this one has stayed in my collection because, well, it's just been in my collection for a long time. It lived in my garage for a really long time in the last house. It's opened bags of concrete. It's done all the brutal things that you shouldn't do to a knife. And it's lasted, it's extremely dull. I think this one's D2. Yep, D2. But not one worth selling, and I've had it for a long, long time, so I've just kept it, really. Another one like that is my Mini Griptilian. I'm not a Benchmade fan now, but they used to be different, and this is an OG knife for me. I got this back in the early days of collecting as well, so I've kept it, not worth selling, in 154 CM. And that's a great blue. Another classic from that era of collecting that's not worth selling, Kershaw Skyline. Just a cool kind of OG design. If you've been in the knife world, you've seen this. Not a great knife, but again, a collection item, not worth selling, and definitely has more value to me sentimentally than it does on the market. This is a Microtech Socom Elite with serrations. This is just a great beater knife. I'm honestly probably gonna end up gifting this to somebody. They're good knives, made in the U.S. I'm not a serrations guy. I'll probably end up giving this to a friend or something like that. It's a great knife to beat up. Next we have the HEA Equilibrium. This is a wild looking knife. This is also from my early days of collecting. This is not a very good EDC, but Sam, the guy that owns and runs HEA, is a good personal friend. I met him when I started collecting because I bought one of his knives, and he wrote me a note when I bought it, this one in particular, that said, "Hey, thanks for buying one of my knives." So I just reached out to him on Instagram, and we became really good friends. There was an era of our lives where when we were both of us weren't married yet, and we were just really good friends and would talk on the phone very regularly and talk about our dreams of, the future and stuff like that. He's a really good friend of mine. And so that one obviously is special to me for that reason. Wild looking knife too, the Equilibrium, very kind of a Persian blade. So Sam, if you're watching this, hope you're doing well, buddy. We haven't chatted in a long time. You're an awesome dude. Next up, we've got the TRM Shadow. Got this one in a trade. These ones are really well loved. It's one that I just wanted to try out, currently in my collection. Also currently for sale. Great little EDC knife made in the US. Great budget EDC knife. Next up, we have the Gunslinger Jack. This is the front flipper locking Jack Wolf knife. Cool knife, kind of the modern take on the traditional knife with a front flipper in S90V, which is dope. Got this one in a trade. This one is another Jack Wolf. I think it's called the Benny Tie. It's all titanium. Also S90V, frame lock titanium, purple accents. Also cool. That one is also for sale. Just one that ended up in my collection through a trade. Next up, we are getting into a few of my Medfords. This is the Medford Praetorian Genesis in the abalone finish, which is quite rare, and 3V. This is honestly a knife that came out when I started collecting back in the early 2010s, and I just wanted one. They're not great knives as far as usefulness goes because they're super obtuse. The grip is kind of weird, but I still love them. I love chunky knives. I think it's a really sweet looking knife, and in 3V, you'd be hard pressed to hurt this knife. This is a Medford Smooth Criminal. Just a cool little button lock flipper knife. This one I also got in a trade. I enjoy trading knives, as you can see. Just a fun knife to have. I honestly, this is a small enough knife where this is kind of a sweatpants knife for me, so I usually basically get dressed first thing in the morning. I'm not someone that likes to hang out in PJs or something. I'm always wearing like work pants or something, but if I happen to be, I'll throw this in my pocket because it's small and it's got a good pocket clip. This is the Medford Marauder H, and this one is in 3V. This is a beat the shit out of it knife and don't worry about it, and honestly it's really fun to carry. It's ridiculously large and extremely tough. This 3V is great. I've cut wires with it, and you can't even tell. It's still super sharp. I put an edge on it when I got it. Total beater of a knife, kind of just a fun knife to throw around, and absolutely abused and used for things that you shouldn't use a knife for. This is the Medford Slim Midi Marauder. So this is a smaller version of this big Marauder and the slim configuration. And honestly, this is a really underrated EDC knife, I think. Great ergos, really good action, very pocketable, kind of the perfect size. This one is in S30V, also a great steel. And I got this from my buddy Drew, and it's a great knife that is hard to beat, honestly, especially because they're cheap. So this is a really good EDC knife in my opinion. Next up we have my Striders. I used to have a big Strider collection, not so much anymore. I pared it down, and now I've got just some really cool stuff. So this is a really OG Strider snub-nosed Tonto with the Lego scale and these the swirly flaming on the handle, and then the old school tiger stripe that's more wavy than it is now, and the snub-nosed Tonto. They do a longer Tonto now, and probably the coolest part of it is the fact that it is a Hinderer lock bar, or lock bar stabilizer. This lock bar stabilizer says Hinderer, so this is from the era when Mick Strider just started doing lock bar stabilizers, so he was not able to manufacture them in-house yet, so he bought them from Rick Hinderer, who had them on his knives and put them on his Striders. So from this era, the lock bar stabilizers say Hinderer, which I think is a really cool piece of history. This is a super rare knife too because of the configuration and the color. Really just a cool piece. This is a knife that will never go anywhere that I don't know where it is. Basically, I have an agreement with the guy I got it from that if I ever sell it, it'll go back to him or one of our other friends, because it's just one of those knives that you don't want to disappear into the ether. So just a really cool historical piece in S30V. And then I have just my beater SNG. That was an SNG, by the way. don't know if I said that. This is just a default hybrid 3/4 grind Magna Cut blade. This was my first Strider. Well, my first modern Strider. I had one back in the day. Great knife, easy to beat the crap out of. This one, 3/4 grind isn't great on these. It's pretty obtuse. It doesn't slice very well. And this one actually has a warped handle. So I got to send it back to the mothership for warranty work, because it's impossible to get a smooth action out of this, because this handle is actually warped this way. So just a very run-of-the-mill SNG, but my first one, so I don't want to get rid of it. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Here is another cool, hard to find Strider. This is an SMF, full CC, so it is contoured all the way around and has the flag on it. So this was a SHOT Show special. I'm not sure when, but these are really popular because there's only, I think, 12 of them made. And a very, very thick blade stock Tonto. I love Tontos. Again, these are really hard to find. Not something that will ever leave my collection unless it goes to someone I know with first right refusal. So cool piece. Really tough knife. Great action too, actually. A little bit of soft detent, but very, very smooth. Part of that probably is that this blade weighs 2 pounds. All right, now we are into the one Emerson I have. I had a big Emerson collection at one time. This is the one I kept. This is a CQC7 V grind. So it's got, instead of that chisel grind, it's got both sides ground, although the actual primary bevel is in fact chisel ground. And this is in the tan, which I love, and has a Spooky clip, which Spooky is my friend's brand. Really cool guy, Bad Hombre, Paco's his name, and he has this brand that's kind of this, take care of yourself brand, and really great group on Facebook. And so I won this pocket clip in an auction. It's got, I think it's silver coated. I don't remember exactly, but the pocket clip on this knife is more special to me than the knife, honestly. And one of the reasons I've kept this knife, because I want to keep this pocket clip mounted on something. It's just a really cool silver pocket clip. As you can see, it's got some awesome tarnishing on it and stuff. So a cool piece that is from a good friend. Now these are more boring. Well, this one actually has a story. So this is a Spyderco Ambitious. And this was the first pocket knife I purchased as an adult. I mean, I had, I had Swiss Army knives as a kid and all that, but this was the knife that started it all for me, the actual knife. And I recently found this. I didn't know I still had it. We just recently moved, and it was in the bottom of a box. It was of random stuff from way back when. I thought it was gone. As you can see, the pocket clip is falling off, but these were like $28, and I started researching knives, and I was like, wow. And I was in college, and I was like, that's what I can afford. So I got this. I carried it for a long time. And then I upgraded to another Spyderco, the Spyderco Centofonte 4, which I don't have anymore. Which that was the first knife that really cut me. This one is in HCR13 MOV, crappy old steel, but this knife is really sentimental because it was the first knife I ever bought. When I started collecting. Awesome little knife. Actually, it has great ergos. This would be a great little user if it wasn't in the steel that's made of butter. But anyways, that's just another sentimental item. Next, I've got a pair 3. This one's an S30V. Got this in a trade. Everybody needs a pair 3. These are great knives. I tend to give them away to my friends because it's the perfect amount of nice for a non-knife guy that will last them forever. And the perfect size, incredible ergos, This one's been used quite a bit, got it in a trade. Okay, I, centered kind of the more special stuff. So this is when it gets a little fancier. First in the special rows, if you will, is my Clyde Challenor Viper. So this is a 1-of-1 with a damascene steel inlay that is just incredible. And has, these captured hardware pivots that are contoured into the scale. and matching Dama on the back. Hidden hardware pocket clip. It's a front flipper, a great front flipper, and a really practical EDC shape. This is a fantastic knife. I was turned on to Clyde Challenor by my buddy Drew, who's a really good friend of mine, and his Viper is, I think it's still his favorite knife. He was like, you gotta check out Clyde. And I wasn't really about it, and then I handled it, and I was like, I have to have one of those, so I snagged this one. Absolutely beautiful, great front flipper action, and honestly, Clyde's really underrated. This is a kind of a perfect EDC knife if you like front flippers. Great action, you know. I can't say good enough things about this. You really should check out Clyde Challenor if you've never seen his stuff. Love that one. Next up, we have the Barajas brothers. So first, we've got the Vic knife, so Victor Barajas Pro Vic 1. This is in RWL 34 speed holes. I love speed holes. Kind of a plain finish. Really cool knife. It's a great EDC knife too. This was also a trade with my buddy Drew, who encouraged me to buy that. A cool knife to have. Vic is a great knife maker. I just love the lines of this knife. Very sleek, kind of bird-like, I guess. But I'm all about the speed holes these days for some reason, and you'll see in the next few knives. And then the other of the Barajas brothers, this is Eddie Barajas, or Sharknivko Waka. And this might be one of my most carried knives of last year for sure. I carried this for 90 days straight. I used it for everything, and it is beat to crap. I love this knife. Great front flipper, great thumb action. It just is a really sleek knife. These are really good EDC knives. And as you can see, it's been used a ton. The edge has been sharpened. It's got gunk on it right now. The pocket clip is absolutely beat. And there's dings and stuff. This is really a true user. I do like to use basically all of my knives, but this one has been through the ringer. I love this knife. It's just a plain Jane Waka, but it's really good. And I've had, I think, 3 other Wakas. And this one's all in fancier configurations, but this is the one that stuck around. And Sharknivko is special to me too. I have one of their member coins. I admin for their group. So this is a really special knife, one that will hopefully never leave the collection. It won't ever leave the collection. Next up, we have the Jeff Vandermeulen Homicide, and also more speed holes. This Homicide was made for me directly from Jeff. It features a Timascus pocket clip, which looks just absolute killer with that orange in there and all those colors. And then speed holes and a super thick blade stock, so thicker than normal hand satin blade with the crazy, let me see if I can, there, with the crazy, compound grind on it that's super deep in S30V. This is a fantastic knife. Jeff made this for me in the end of November of 2024, and I got it. These are really good. I beat the crap out of this knife too. Jeff does really good work. It'd be hard to find a tougher knife, I think. And the flipper action is great. I like to close it like that, and I like to thumb it open. I don't know. This is just one of those knives that speaks to me for some reason. And really good finishing. Hand satin's gorgeous. Great grinds. Jeff's edges are some of the best custom knife maker edge. I feel like sometimes custom knife makers don't put a crazy edge on their knives because they don't think people are going to use them, but Jeff put a scary edge on this, and I really appreciate that because I love using this thing. Really good knife. Next, we have, I think this might be my favorite knife in the collection. This is my McGinnis Notorious 3.5. In beautiful, I think it's fat carbon, orange fat carbon with a hand satin blade that's got this recurve, super thin behind the edge, really crazy. On washers, and then the texturing on the handle. Jerry does some of the best texturing for titanium. It feels so good in hand. And it just looks really premium. And it's got this Zerk blasted titanium hardware, or excuse me, backspacer and pocket clip. This is just a knife that's really simple, but there's something about it that is absolutely beautiful. And I love a recurve on a knife, and this has a slight recurve and then a good belly on that tip. These are really hard to find and really hyped, but I understand it after owning one, honestly. And this one is, I think, the smoothest knife I own, and it makes that really good sound too. Just really something special, something about it. I've got fancier knives, but that one is one of my very top. Speaking of fancier knives, here is my Anthony Marfione Annex, and it is in an L-Max Dama with the flamed titanium handle. And if you're not familiar with the Annex, it is in fact an integral. So this whole handle is one piece of titanium. Really just gorgeous. I think this is the prettiest knife in my collection, not my favorite. I think that's the McGinnis, but this is definitely the prettiest in my opinion. That blade is just insane. Love that. All right. We'll go this way because there's more boring stuff at the top. Here's a made for me by Craig Brown mini FSDI. This one is in Magna Cut with the blasted handle finish and then the gold hardware. Craig made this for me in 2023. The FSDI is a really, really incredible knife. They have adjustable detent and lock bar pressure. You can hear that I have mine just a little too far, so it's got a little bit of stick, but this is just a really cool knife. Incredible, incredible machining. And it's cool that Craig made it for me. Great front flipper too on this one, as you can hear. I should adjust that lock bar so it's a little bit less tight, but really crazy action. Really cool one. I love that gold hardware. Speaking of customs, and gold, this is a Bradley Moraes Vector with a floating kind of ghost Dama backspacer. And this was made for me by Brad Moraes, hand satin M390 blade, and is an absolute stunner. I'm honored that I got to get one of these. He doesn't do very many book spots, and I got to configure it, and working with him was a dream. And look at that gold fleck carbon fiber. Just a gorgeous knife. Brad was a apprentice of Jason Guthrie, and that's why that looks similar to the Scout. It's not stolen. He works with Jason, or has in the past, and Jason is totally fine with him using similar designs. It's how he learned, and it's not the same as Jason's Scout and such, but it just looks similar and is much cheaper because Jason is more of a household name, but these are just as good quality. I've handled some Guthries. Next up, we have a custom made for me by Pohan Liu, a Liu Bluefin. This thing is a beast with the Thunderstorm Kevlar bolster or handle and titanium bolster, frame lock. Absolute animal of a knife. I love these. Super smooth too, and Poe is great. These are just as chunky as they can be. All right, another Pohan up next. This is the first Pohan I got, the Kyojin. I really love this design. Contoured, gorgeous, very simple, but just speaks to me. I love this knife. Poe does awesome work. And then another custom by Poe, made for me. This is just a plain Jane sardine. It's basically just the little brother of this bluefin. Really a kind of a funny looking knife, but it feels so robust in the hand. It's a great user. Poe also does great edges, by the way. Just like Jeff. Those old school guys, they do good edges. Okay, next up we have a TJ Fisher. So Todd Jr. Fisher launch. more speed holes. This is a cool knife. I kind of bought this one on a whim, but I really liked it. I've carried it a good bit. It's a great slicer. It's really thin behind the edge. It's definitely been used, as you can see. It's a cool one all around. The Fisher family is legendary. Now we have a Grayman Dua. Grayman is a company that's not around anymore. Fun fact, this was my first Grail knife. Not this one exactly, but I sold it, and this is back in the early days of collecting. So I had to track one down, and Grayman isn't around anymore. And the Duo was like pretty unique because this was an era where the only good American knife makers were CRK, Hinder, and Strider. And then Duo came along and they did these great American-made little, bulldog of a knife that were super tough and, a tie frame lock. This one has a carbon fiber scale, but it's not the full scale. It's just on top of another tie liner. And just a knife that was really instrumental to me in my collecting journey because it was my first Grail. So I had to find one and put it in my collection, and never gonna leave because it's a special item to me. It's actually a great little knife still. I don't carry it just because I have other stuff I carry, not because I wouldn't, but it's a it's a permanent resident in my collection. Okay, here's a random ZT that's up there, ZT0562. Again, this was acquired recently, but I grabbed it because the 0562 kind of opened my eyes to like the big knives, and they were really popular when I first started collecting. So I grabbed this one in a trade. I think it's a really good knife. I might like it better than the XM18, which is what it's based off of, but don't tell anybody that. Just a really great, bread and butter knife of the American knife making world. All right, we are into my Shiros. So first up, we have a Shirogorov Quantum Ursus. You've seen a video on this one. It looks a little different now, and that's because I stripped the ano off. I like plain tie a little bit better. And there's actually, you can still see a little bit of the ano, which I think looks sick. It's a little bit of gold. But I stripped the ano off. This is the Monkey Edge frag pattern in Chromax. This is a great knife. I've been really enjoying carrying this, and I've been carrying it a lot. It's a great user knife. Next to that is its fancier brother, the non-Ursus Quantum, just the Quantum Gen 2. This is just an absolute stunner of a knife. The milling is remarkable. I mean, look at that. Just gorgeous. I've also been carrying this a lot. Incredible action. I've been on a Shiro binge lately, and the Quantums are kind of hard to track down, so I was really pleased to get this one. Then we have a old school white G10 F3. Got this one in a trade. See, I like the concept of this one, but you can't really see because of the brightness, but the white G10 picks up dirt really easily. It's still a cool knife, but just kind of a funny thing where it's like, white G10 actually might not be a very good idea. So there's that one. Then we have the also old school Shirogorov 111, which is an insanely large knife. 111 millimeters, almost said centimeters. This one's in Vanex, never been carried. This one's for sale if you're looking. From 2013, the box has Russian on it. It's a really cool, just kind of collector's piece. Got it in a trade as well. We'll be getting rid of it. I've got a special edition 111 on the way from Recon 1, so I'm excited about getting that. And it has the modern upgrades and such. This is my Shirogorov F95 MEFP. Great user knife. I love this thing. Carry this one a lot too. As you can see, it matches the Ursus, both in that kind of nude tie, but the MEF or the F95 came from the factory like that, so it's a little more high polish, but both really good knives. I can't decide which blade shape I like better. I go back and forth, but this thing is awesome. Great to use. Really one of the best EDC knives out there, and great action. So Then we have the Christian Caldwell. Oh, by the way, I'm missing one Shiro here. It's with a friend. It's my Astrum. Love that knife. If you haven't seen my video on it, go check it out. This is the Christian Caldwell MVC. Absolute beast of a knife. Chisel ground, A2 steel, thick liner lock. This crazy skull breaker, really just a crazy knife. That's an early example of one of Christian's knives. Then we have the, I want to say this is the rack, the Christian Caldwell rack. He made this one for me. This one has some really bad lock stick, and I need to get it fixed. I haven't sent it back to him yet, so really cool, refined knife, but the lock stick was crazy. I don't know what happened with that. I actually have to take it off screen to even disengage it, so good looking knife though. And then here's another one by Christian. Made this one for me as well. Love carrying this weird recurve. I love that kind of arrow tip. I can't remember the model name for this one off the top of my head. I can't. Factor, I think. Yeah, I think it's the Factor. Super weird, but chunky and tough. Just like me as a kid. I was not tough, but I was chunky. Okay, now we're on to some random stuff. This is the, what is this one? The Tarkin by, I can't remember the knife maker. This is a great budget knife. I got this in a partial trade with some other stuff, and really just a knife that I feel like I'm surprised it's not on the radar more. They're like $180 new. They look great, great fit and finish, really good action. It's in 20 CV or M398 at 20 CV. Really a fun fidget knife. Got this from Hayden and Fred, some friends of mine, in a trade. I can't remember the brand name. It's the Tarkin. If you Google Tarkin knife, that's what it is. It's one of those more budget-friendly knife brands that I'm not super into. A lot of those modern or budget-friendly knives, not into them, but I just don't know them very well these days because I collect fancy stuff. I can't remember the name of that. It's going to bother me. Okay, next I've got my Demco 8020. This is one of the American-made ones. It's the no-hole ones, dagger, magna cut, Opal G10. I've got some tie scales on the way for this. This is a knife that you couldn't break if you wanted to. And really is just a knife that I throw in my pocket when I don't want to have to worry about anything. After that, I've got a Spyderco Shaman. This one's an M4, brown micarta handle. You always need a Shaman. Got this one on trade. If you need a Shaman, let me know. I'll sell it to you. Here's one of, this is a PM2. This is in the crew wear, the Crew Carta special edition. I love this knife. I think this is beautiful. I also feel like everybody needs a PM2. They're just great knives. If you think they're ugly, then I get it. Spydercos are very particular looking, but this one is just a really good example, in my opinion, one of my favorite versions. Then we have an MBK Old Guard. Really, really good knife. After getting one of these, I think this is one of the best, upper end budget knives. It just works really well. It's a great profile. It goes in the pocket really nicely. Good action. It's one of those knives that's just like good. I don't know if that makes sense. Great fit and finish. This is one of their Chinese made ones. They have their American made knives too, which I've had, which are fantastic, but these are a great budget option. MBK just does good, simple designs. I don't remember what steel this one is, 20 CV. All right, now we're on to the final few, just some random ones. Most of these are sentimental. This is a Japanese folding knife. This is like the type of folding knife they carry in Japan. It's like a pinched aluminum, I think, and then the lock is just your thumb on it. My friend got this for me. He knows I'm really into knives. And that's a special thing to me, so I will definitely keep this one. Kind of a cool just piece of history. There's a great pocket knife history. There's a great blade history in Japan, obviously. But this is a style of pocket knives that a lot of people I've carried in the past in Japan, kind of that friction folder, and you put your thumb on there. Honestly, it'd be a great knife just to slip in a pocket. It's super light too. Then we have my North Woods Bear Lake. This is in mammoth bone. I was really into collecting traditional knives for a long time, and this is a knife that I carried on my wedding day, and my brother has a matching one in red micarta, and so will never leave my collection. And this is just kind of a beautiful piece. I mean, it's hard to dislike this. This is just one of those knives that, you know, a true classic. Hard to hate on that. It's a mammoth ivory or mammoth bone. I don't remember which one, but really just classic. Then we have my Almar in mother of pearl in VG10. This was a wedding gift from Sam, the maker of this knife. We were good friends, or are good friends, but he gave me this as a wedding gift, and so that's super special to me. That beautiful mother of pearl handle. I almost cut myself with it in the back lock. It's a really classy knife. Then we have two, or we'll do those last. This was partial trade, I think. I can't remember what this one's called too. It says somewhere on the blade. I can't read that, but Esnix, I think. These are just a fun, like, great little front flipper knife that is like a super fidget friendly. I think they're made in the U.S. too. Someone tell me what this is in the comments. It's got the beer opener on the back. Just a great little kind of traditional modern folder. And then last, but certainly not least, because they are the most sentimentally valuable to me, is the two knives my wife bought me when we were dating very early on, because we've been together for over 11 years now. And when I first started collecting, we had just started dating. So she bought me this Boker Curtis collab. I think it's called the War Toad. See the Curtis pocket clip? This thing is awesome. I just love this thing for sentimental reasons, and I just think it's a really cool little design. And obviously my wife bought it for me when we were dating. It's super special. And then we have the Boker Pelican, which I just dropped on the floor. Let me grab it. And this was like a super slim, like fit in your wallet knife. All tie frame lock. You can't open it one-handed, but really cool. It weighs almost nothing. And look how thin that is. I think the blade is VG10 too. Yeah, it's a VG10 blade. Just a cool little, like, almost wallet knife. So that's that. That's the whole collection. I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know which one was your favorite. It's going to be a long video, but I think people like collection videos. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.